Welcome back to Murph Code's Python tutorial. Last time we covered a little taste of what you could do with the CK Inter Python module. Today, we're gonna hit quite a bit more. Now, don't be intimidated by all of this code that you have no idea what it does. You are never going to make this because this is a ridiculous thing. Let me show you what it is. First of all, we've already got some problems here because as you can see when I resize this whole section here slides through these. Don't do that with your code. Don't do that with your programs. Make sure your windows are big enough to contain everything. Make sure that they are placed properly with the package manager so that things aren't sliding through other things when your users open your windows, okay? Be professional. But anyway, let's take a look at what we have here because it's a bit weird. Alright, so we have our normal window. We have an exit button that will actually close out our program here. We also have menus. Most of this doesn't do anything, but we can exit and we can select a file to be opened. However, it doesn't actually open anything. I just have it print out the file location right now. We can use that though, using our Cruddy Buddy object that we made in the previous segments. We can use that, feed it this, create an object, and ta-da! We have our Cruddy Buddy object with very little actual modification to what we have here. We're not going to use this, obviously, because this has all kinds of other weird stuff. This is just experimentation that I was doing while brushing up on my TK Inter knowledge. Because as I had mentioned, it had been quite a while since I had worked with TK Inter. Now, you're probably not going to do a whole lot with sliders, but those are a thing. You will, however, be using labels, which is what this clock is actually made from. That's just a label widget. How is it updating the time like that? Well, I'll show you that in a minute here. Radio buttons might be a thing that you decide you need in your program. Checkboxes. Those tend to be a thing that get used quite often for like acknowledging the terms of use for whatever your app is. You may even wind up doing one of these little selector boxes at some point. In fact, this could probably be useful for how we select records for editing. Right? I mean, that would make sense. And no good app should be without a menu. That's just a given. If you're not figuring out how to make menus, your apps are going to be really boring. Also, I do apologize for the yawning a lot. I'm really tired. I am not gonna lie. I should be napping, but instead I am living up to the obligation I set for myself to show you all how to do at least some of this stuff. Alright, so oh, I forgot to show you the well, no, I showed you the how to open the file dialog. We'll get to how to actually write all of this code. But let's open up our previous example here. Okay, here we go. So we imported, and then we imported again, imported all of the things. Honestly, we could just go with this, and that'd be fine. We also want to import our file dialog. Because that'll come in handy. I don't know that we're actually going to need to import the time module. I imported that for the little clock widget that I built. So we're not going to worry about that right now. All right, what do we need to change? Oh, yeah, we can get rid of that because we already put that on there. We just go with top TK. Run the module. There we go. Okay. Now already I can tell you we're probably going to want to change this into a file option. Or we just go open file, or file open from the cascading menus at the top. However, having the entry fields there and knowing how to use them, definitely helpful. So that's the thing we're going to want to continue having. But the first thing I want to talk about is this part right here. Because this looks kind of new, doesn't it? I mean, it looks like the object-oriented stuff we talked about when we turned our Cruddy Buddy into an object. Let me walk you through what's going on here. So, for our app, we wanted to turn the user interface into its own object, where it can reference itself. And, if a text box had some value in it, it would be easy for code that updates another part to be able to reference that. So, by making it all the same object, when we do stuff like run our functions here, and we have to pass self like we do in every method of an object, within it, you'll see all of our values, or all of our widgets and stuff. They're right there. We just throw a self in front of them and we can access them, no problem. Now the way we do this is we just take one of the top level widgets within the TK-Inter module, and we extend it. In most cases, we're going to extend frame instead of the window itself. Unless you're going to make additional windows, then you can go ahead and extend the windows, customize the window to do whatever you need it to do. But in this case, we're going to extend frame, and then we're going to pass frame into our root, and that's what's going on down here. So root is the main window. Alright. All of this outlined in red here. That's the root, the main TK-Inter app. Without all this extra stuff on there, it's just a big blank window. Now, because we created the window class and extended frame, we are creating a custom widget. And then we're going to create that custom widget. And then the root here is that we're referencing this, passing this into our window class, and just like how everything we were doing before in this part, you remember how we had to reference the parent widget that we were attaching everything to? That's what's going on there. Alright, master equals none. This is setting a default for the widget so that it has no master unless we give it one. Unless we assign it a window to exist in, it doesn't have one. We call the frames original init method, because remember, we're just extending a widget that already existed. We're going to call that pre-existing widget's init method. We're going to pass whatever master we gave it. Like, for now, just ignore this part, because we set one up here and we passed it root. So basically we're attaching our window to root. We're using the frame's default init class to do that. And then we're also going to make sure that we tell our extended frame, the window class. Oh, hey, Just Terrible. Welcome to the chat. We're going to make sure that it retains a reference to what that master object is. Here, the default action of our window class is to take up the entire available space. To do that, you just use fill both, expand one. We didn't really talk a whole lot about pack in the last one, and we're still not going to, because in my opinion, pack it's stupid and confusing. Because let me jump back to this thing here. Alright, you see how this part has the weird, like, everything's just kind of stacked in the middle here, and it passes through all the rest of our stuff? All of this stuff was added to our window with place. This stuff here was added with pack. It just slaps it in there and just kind of keeps it in a bunch, you know? Doesn't give you a whole lot of customization, but there are some options. You could, like, put in, like, a, I don't know, there's an option to float everything to the left or to the right, or keep it all centered. I much prefer I much prefer place because you can get right down to the pixel and set up your layouts how you want them. Okay, so we're not getting too specific on pack because I feel like place does a much better job. But for our window, because we want it to take up the whole thing, because we're going to use this as our top level widget, even though it's not really the top level widget, we're using it as our top level widget. We want to take up all the available space in the actual top level widget. Alright, so to do that, we call the pack function, or the pack method, from within the init method, and it does. That's why we're referencing self there. We're calling the Windows own pack method. You've seen, like here, we normally would call, or we'd create the object, and then we'd call the geometry manager afterwards. Since we're doing it within the object itself, we're going to call it this way. Alright, so next we add stuff to our widget. I find that if we're going to reference it with some code, it's almost always better to throw a self in front of it, because it makes it easier to reference that stuff later. You don't necessarily have to for everything, because we're going to be adding all of the this self.master every time we create a new one. Although there kind of is a difference here. I mean, not much of one. I mean, can you tell? Not really, huh? Me neither. But the argument's still, you know, we're calling self for that first argument so that the widget knows what it's attached to. Alright, I will get into more detail on what's going on here, but the first thing we want to add to our actual interface is a menu. We're going to do the same thing we did in the other one here. We're going to do frame. Make sure I'm doing this right. We call the frame init. Pass it the self object and the master object, or the master that we declared there, so that it knows what the default, what the root widget, the parent widget, is going to be. And then we want to set that to take up all the space. Okay, so this is going to be our new top level widget within our app window. We're going to add all of our widgets to this one. That way when we add this, it adds everything else. and everything is contained within this one. So all of our graphic user interface functions will become methods of this object. Variables that we need in order to reference and update other parts of our app will also be contained as part of this object. It just kind of keeps it all together, you know? Bundles it all as one. Alright. So here we do this, and then we do... Why is there a space there? That's weird. Alright, we're going to comment this stuff out, because this is all stuff we were adding to our widget previously, but now we're going to do it in an object-oriented fashion. We might use some of this stuff later, so I don't want to get rid of it entirely. But we're still going to keep our changes we made to our top level window. Alright. Starting with clean, fresh slate. I do want to make that bigger though, because that is not going to be a whole lot of space to work with, is it? And you remember how before we declared our window width and height? Thanks for the advice, Chafin, but I don't care if I become famous. Please don't advertise junk like that in my chat. Now you gotta figure out how to remove your stupid message, because that's inappropriate. There. Yeah, please do not advertise garbage like how to add phony followers to your account and stuff in my chat. That's not a thing I do. That's not a thing I appreciate. I ain't looking to be famous. I'm looking to just be here. Do my own thing. Alright? I don't need your social media manager help on how to build a fake following. Alright? I already know how to do that. I already know those services exist. I have 11 followers because those people actually click the follow button. I'm not buying more followers. Anyway, back to what I was doing. Alright, so we've changed the dimensions of our window here. Let's go ahead and run that. And that gives us a bit more space to work with. We should be alright within the confines of that. Okay, now we wanted to add a menu. So let's take a look at how we do that. So, very first thing we do is we create our top level menu bar. That's easy enough. Now, it's rare that you're actually going to have to reference the menu itself or target it through any action from like a method or something you've created. So we don't have to worry about tacking on the self to everything because we're not going to have to try to call back to it. So we can just go ahead and add, let's see, we want file because we open and close a file. Oh, sorry, we need our top level menu first, which we're just going to go with standard menu. And again, we're just adding that to itself within the frame object we're creating here. Or I'm sorry, the window object we're creating here, which is an extension of the frame object. The frame widget is what the tkinter module offers as a grouping widget. It's basically just, you know, a box that you can add other widgets to keep them together, and then you can add multiple boxes full of widgets to your actual window, but we're using one frame to fill up the whole window. We could also add frames within frames, so, you know, that's a possibility too. All right. What is this doing? As you can see, I even have a comment here. What is this doing? Well, we're calling our master object which I completely forgot to reference up here. And we are configuring the menu option of our master object to be this menu. Gets a little weird, but like say for some reason we decided to number our menu. This is menu 1 as opposed to menu 2 or 3 later. Menu is an option that's part of the master widget object already. In our case, that would be this thing. And we're just setting that to be, you know, this particular menu that we're setting up. Try not to get too bogged down in the details. It didn't make sense to me at first when I was looking at it, but it's legit, I guess. All right, so we need to also because all this did was create the top menu bar. That's all we've done so far. We now need to add our sorry, my brain is having a hard time keeping up with my thoughts today because I'm still tired. We need to add the cascading menus that we want to use. So for now, we're just going to make a file menu. It's the only menu we're going to make so far. We'll make a record menu probably later. I mean, that would make sense, right? We have a file menu for opening and closing files, updating files, saving files. Our edit file menu option could be record specific, like, you know, edit this record kind of stuff. That would make sense. Now, when we're doing a file menu, edit menu, format menu, when you click on them, all of these things are commands. Just like when you click a button. Yeah, as you've seen, we can click a button, get it to run a function. That's all these are doing. When you click on them, they're running a function. So, to our menu, we're going to add the individual commands. The arguments we take here are label, this would be open, it helps if I can spell, I cannot, and then we would set whatever function we wanted. Now, since we're going to be making our functions methods of our window object, we're going to be using this notation in order to call it properly, so that it knows to call the method belonging to itself. On the off chance we create more than one window using our window object, we would want it to create its own. Call its own exit function or open function or whatever versus those functions within something else. Now, we don't have this function written yet, but we will. It's just the file open option. In here I call it file open dialog option. But it doesn't really matter what you call the function, just so long as you remember it. And we can go ahead and we can set that up already. Remember, whenever you're making a method that's part of an object, the very first argument is always to pass itself. Because this is going to be a command on one of our menu options, we really don't have an option to add more arguments, but it will automatically pass itself, which is handy. That comes in handy, because we're going to be referencing itself. But for now, we're just going to throw this pass keyword in there, which tells the interpreter, yeah, we know. We didn't write it, but test the code anyway. Run the code anyway. We're not going to worry about it. We're not going to worry about the fact that this function is totally empty. Because otherwise it would argue with us. It would be like, hey, you need to put something in here, otherwise it does nothing. And we know it does nothing. We want it to do nothing right now. But we can do this. Now you might be like, hey, there's no menu there. That's because we haven't added the menu yet. We're just kind of creating the menu. We haven't actually made the menu. For that, you have to add your stuff. Just like, you know, how every time we create a widget, we have to add it to its parent by using pack or place or grid. Basically the same thing here. But with menu, and it takes a lot of the same options that our add command does, like a file, or like a label. We're going to label this one file. We're going to use our file menu. Now the other thing we wanted to add here, it helps if I could spell or anything. Is that what we want to do? Exit? Sure. We'll go with exit. I don't think exit's a keyword or anything, so we should be fine. Right? That should work. Helps if I put the thing there. There we go. Alright, so now we have a window that should have a menu, I think. Maybe. Almost forgot to remove my little weird ones from that. Helps if I can spell. That's what we're learning right here. Helps if I can spell. Where did I misspell that? Fly. Fly. Gotta love spelling errors, yeah. It really helps when you're trying to write Python and you really need an app. Alright, so there's our menu added to our window. It still exits for us because we did write that one. We don't have a working file yet. File open yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Don't worry. We want to continue to build this out though. Alright, so that gives you a pretty good idea of how to make menus. You create your top level menu. You create your menu entries. We could do a second one. We could do an edit for all of the various records we're going to be messing with. And then you just add them to your top level right here with the add cascade option. And there's your menu. But let's see. We need to... What do we need to do? I suppose we do need to work on that file opening thing, don't we? Because remember, what we're trying to build here is the graphic user interface for our CRUD object that we made in previous tutorials. Alright, so how do we do that? Alright, let's look at... Here we go. I'm just going to steal this one. This is the one that I made for the example. And I really don't feel like typing it all out. I'm just going to drop that right there. Oh wait, we already have... I forgot we already kind of started, but we didn't actually make anything out of it. For now, we're going to have it open the file Dialog, and it's going to take the file name that is selected and pass it to this variable here. We'll probably end up changing that, make that a self.file name or file path, and then break it up. No, I don't use PyCharm. For this tutorial, I'm basically just going with what comes with Python when you install it. So, you know, no PyCharm, because PyCharm's that's a third-party stuff. We're also not doing PyQt for the graphic user interface because we'd have to install that. Yep, we're gonna just basically go with what you get when you just install Python for this tutorial. Later tutorials, though, I do intend to show Pygame, which is a module that you have to install in order to use it. I do want to show Kyvie as well as a graphic user interface. But the problem I'm running into currently is, last time I checked, there is no Kyvie for Python 3.10, which is what we're currently using. So I'm either going to have to install a previous version of Python to get Kyvie working, or just wait and see if they update Kyvie. They might have it updated by the time I finish this tutorial, and then it'll be ready to go. If not, I'll have to install an older version of Python to show you all how to do that. But my preferred actual IDE when I'm not tinkering around in idle is this bad boy right here, Visual Studio Code. But that's because I code in more than just Python. I mean, I have tried PyCharm. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I know a lot of people love it, but it wasn't my thing. With Visual Studio Code, normally that's my go-to environment. I do JavaScript in there. I do C. I do Python. I do everything in this one. But I didn't want to also have to walk people through how to properly get set up with a separate IDE when, you know, Python just comes with one. It does. It's not the greatest. I will admit, not the greatest. There are some options here that do make it a little bit better, like adding the file numbers, which I always forget to do. Or the line numbers. I really should do that. It makes it easier to debug things. It really does. But I just wanted people to see what you get with Python just by itself. Now, if you have an IDE that you prefer, by the way, IDE, that's just programmer talk for the text editor you use. Don't worry about, oh, he's not using PyCharm. I could code everything in Notepad. Everything. I can code Python, I can code C, I can code JavaScript programs, everything you could possibly think of. I could make it in Notepad, and it would work just fine. We don't do that, though, because Notepad does not come with the tools that make writing code easy or convenient in any way. It's just a text editor, and that's what most IDEs are. They're just fancy text editors. Doesn't matter which one you're using, as long as you like it, and as long as you know how to use it, and as long as you can get things done. That's all that matters. So, if you're using PyCharm and you're following along, good on ya for getting that installed without my help. In which case, also, why are you following me? Like, if you already know how to install PyCharm and you have some kind of idea of what you're doing, like, you gotta be here just for the laughs. Alright, so we have our open function. Now, if we run this... Oh. This right here is a module. Well, it's a part of the tkinter library. It has a lot of different options. Did I talk about message boxes last time? Because file dialog boxes have are a lot similar. Depending upon what you're looking for, there are quite a few options. In fact, how many lines of code is this going to spit out at me if I do? If I do that. Okay, 356, that's not bad. Okay. So we can get loading and saving dialog boxes. We can get, you know, save as dialog boxes, which are different. And don't be afraid to use the help function within, you know, your idle. Okay, it's there for your benefit. But there's quite a few options here. Trying to find the... Here we go. You can get an entire directory. Get the file name to open, and it returns the open file. This one just asks for a file name. Which one are we using? Yeah, that's the one we're using. Just the one that returns the file name. Because we already have, in our Cruddy Buddy library, which, as you can see at the top there, we're importing the library we wrote previously with our Cruddy Buddy object that has a file open function. And we're going to use that. The only thing we need to do is pass it the name of our file. So all we need to do is get the name of the file, save it somewhere, and for that we're going to use the ask open file name from the file dialog module. But as you can see here, there's a few different options. Like we could actually take care of what mode we're opening these files in, whether that's read or write. Because you remember, we had to specify the mode. Because if we did append, it would add records just directly to the end. If we did write, it would overwrite the entire file. If we just wanted to read the file, we would just put an R for read. So we have a few different options here. Now the default one here looks like they have that set to read. So when you use this to open a file, it returns the actual file object. It'll open it in read mode. Now if you wanted to change that so that you could make changes, you'd probably either want to change that to an A or a W. Now, when we run this module and we actually try our open, so as you can see, it's working. Do we still have our kittens text? We do not have our kittens text. Ah, bummer. Okay, so we're just going to pretend we're going to open this. As you can see, it just spits a file name down here. We will change the action of that later, once we've written out more of our graphic user interface. So, where are we here? File dialog. We got the file dialog open. Edit menu would be great, but for now, what I want to do is create where we're going to put our file information once we've opened it. Because we've got our file name, and right now we're just storing it in name. We'll probably change that to, like I said, later, self.filename or whatever. Or we'll just pass that directly to our CruddyBuddy object. Make the CruddyBuddy object and pass it directly into that, the creation for that. But we'll worry about that later. For now, we need to set up a place where we can actually look at this stuff. For the headers, we want probably a label, I'm thinking. You know? We open it, we've got the label at the top, because we're not changing the headers directly. So those could just be a label. We are going to have them change, though, depending upon the file. So we want to be able to reference those later. So I'm just going to throw a self at the front of that. Trust me, it's easier that way. If I left that off, I would have to do the whole app.headers whatever and remember what name I assign this particular object to. But this way, it knows it's its own headers object. We're going to use label. I think it's text, isn't it? Text, yeah. I'm pretty sure it's text. No. Yes. See, now I'm questioning myself. Okay, no, it is text. Okay. Because on all the other widgets, there's a label option, but for a label, it's a text option. Go figure. Okay, and they do take just regular string values, so you can use your special character escape clauses and stuff here. As I showed you in the last one, you can even do text formatted, which we may do once we know how long the headers are. For now, I just want to get the label in place, and then we'll add the other stuff later. So, now on our window, I want to put this at the top, and we'll give it a couple pixels padding. And at the very left, although this is left, this is top. Don't get confused. Just because I'm confused doesn't mean you should be too. All right. Okay. That's the start of our header line. You remember when we were using our CruddyBuddy object, we had the number, and then it just, yeah. We're going to build on it. We're going to extend that out across here with the various headers for each field. Same as we did when this was a command line program. Alright, now, y'all remember my really ridiculous, confusing thing here? And I was all like, this could potentially be our file record selection thing. That's what we want to add next. Alright, so how did I set that up? Well, good question. Do I remember? It's a... right here. It's a list box. Alright, now because that is something we're going to have to reference with our code, I am going to stick the self label on there again. Just going to go ahead and call it records. Now, this part's going to be a little confusing. The TK enter module offers a couple of different variable types or variable objects that you can use to control, say, like your radio buttons, your check buttons, your select box selections, and you tie these variables to the widget, and then you can reference the variable to get the selected values and things like that later. So this might seem a little confusing at first, but let's look at my example here. Alright, we want to pull this up so that I can show you. And slide this over. Okay, so we have our list box here. We have... Alright, so ignore this first one up here, because this one is the value that goes in here. And in our list selection, where is it? Where's print selection? Okay. We're just using that first string as something we set the value, we set the text to. Alright, so that's what's going on up here. With this one, we've created the string variable object. We tie that string variable object using text variable right there to this label, the green one. And then in our output, when we select stuff here, we get the selection from our list box added to thing and whatever. To populate our list box, we use a second string, and we feed it a list. Each item on the list is a new line in our list box. We can add stuff to it using the insert and remove stuff using delete. We're not going to worry too much about deleting stuff from the list box just yet. That might sound like it's going to come in super handy when we're doing things like deleting records, but we're going to still handle that the same way we did before, where we remove the record from the file itself, and then we reload the record, repopulate our list box, and it should have whole new information in there. We are, however, going to use insert in order to add items to our list box, because we're not going to have any predetermined values here. All right, we're not going to have anything there until we open up a file. Just like our header will just start with a number for to indicate the record number, and then it's going to populate the fields. Later, we're going to populate our list box once we've opened the file. Okay, so we have our list box object there. We do want a variable, though, because we're going to have to target that. With some code later. Let's call this list box list. Why? I couldn't come up with a smarter name. I'm tired, leave me alone. Alright. So. Oh, and we should definitely do that because we are going to be targeting this with methods and functions. So we want this to be an accessible property of our Windows, of our window object. List variable self dot list box list. Oh boy. Okay. So next we have to place it, I believe, right? Yes. We place the object. And we want this to go just under our header label, which we put at 2 pixels in. We're actually going to just put it at 1 pixel in. We might have to adjust these things a little bit later. We do want to drop it about 20 pixels down, though. And like I said, we'll shuffle these as we need to. Alright. So there we go. We have our, essentially, a record box object. We'll probably need to define that width later so that it, and allow it to scroll, possibly. Alright. You know what? I do want to make that a little bit lower, though, because it looks like our label is cutting into our box. Yep, there we go. Alright. Now, if I remember right, that's going to be 120 characters width, not 120 pixels width. So this should be quite large. Oh. And then we forgot the darn comma. Okay, that didn't do anything. Oh, boy. Maybe I can put it here? And I forgot a comma again. There we go. That's better. Oh yeah, I've made it so I can't resize that. We'll just comment that out for now. Okay, it wasn't too much bigger. Wasn't too much bigger than what we had actually had available for our box. So let's do that. Okay, we're getting closer. Getting closer. All right. Just about there. Now that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Let's try 18. Ah, there we go. That looks right. Are we starting to get out of bounds if we go the full 19? Nope, 19's perfect. 119 characters is the exact width of our app. All right. So we're gonna save that. That's pretty good. Okay, so we have our list. We have our variable to control it. We have our file dialog box opening thing. We have our Cruddy Buddy object. I think we have all of the elements we need to make the first actual thing happen here. Alright, so Cruddy Buddy interface, I'm going to set you there. We're going to open up our Cruddy Buddy object. Only because I can't remember how most of this stuff works now because it's been a few days. We're going to run this module. Now, as you remember, we did stuff like this. Created, yeah, okay. So it's created. First header, name. Next header, we did color, if I remember right. And then we did fluffiness. And we called that good. Alright. And then it would look like that. So now this file is created. So if we go and run our module here, kittens, open. Alright, so there's our output for that. Now, how do we take that output and use it to open our file? So, file creation. We need the file directory, we need the file delimiter, we need the file name. So we would want to take this string and we would want to split it up properly. So let's do because our Cruddy Buddy object is still accessible here. Let's see if that works. Cruddy Buddy has no file D attribute. I beg to differ. Did we not make that part of the thing? Yeah, no, it's right there. You know, we probably have to create the file, don't we? Alright, so yeah, file underscore D should work. I don't know why that didn't work. Because we shouldn't have to create an object for this one. Let me try something here. Let's do maybe that. It's entirely possible that because we added we made it a part of our object, we have to instantiate our object. But maybe we can just call it as part of the library. At least that's what I'm hoping. There we go. All right. It did make it a list. It, however, did not split stuff up. Where it should have. When did camp locks get turned on? See if that's working properly. It is not working properly. Why is it not working properly? Because it spit out that instead, which means something in our logic here isn't working right. too far. Okay, so it is NT. There. And it's still NT there. But if it's NT there, why is it that? Did I mess this up? Is this supposed to be the other way around? Oh. That's why. Okay. Duh. Because look closely. Here you can see it's using the backslash. But because we're using the file dialog module, it's using the / here. So we don't even need the file delimiter. We can just assume the / So now we should get, there we go. Okay. Now, every time this runs, what we should end up with is the file name, which we're keeping separate from the rest of the path, is the last object in our list. Alright, so that's the last object in our list, right there. And we can reassemble the path by taking the rest of these and putting them together. So we would want the length of this list -1 joined using our file delimiter, because we're going to probably do that to populate our selection, our list box. And then we can set this as the file name. So I want to make the file object a part of our interface. I just need to make sure that I am calling it correctly. Okay. You know what? I'm already messing this up. Do not code while tired. You will, you'll have a hard time. So, we want the last element of this list. Oop. There we go. Okay. Let's see if that does what we want it to do. Should get kittens txt. Kittens txt. Perfect. Alright, so that means we were able to take self, tack on a file name. Now let's tack on a directory. Oh, let's see how to tack on a directory. How to join everything but the last one. You know, I wonder if there's a way we can use a closed idle, open idle. There we go. Oh. Helps if I can spell help, doesn't it? No? Alright. Okay. There we go. Okay, as you can see, there's quite a few different ways we can manipulate lists. Now let's try using the slice of name. Although before we call it that, let's where am I? There I am. Let's see if this works. Oop. square brackets. There we go. I have no idea if this is going to work. Well, let's find out. If it works, I'll be impressed. Mostly with myself for not being completely just out of it. Well, holy cats! It worked. As you can see there, we have the directory, and then we have the file name, which is what we're used to when we are working with our Cruddy Buddy object. So, it's still printing out NT though. Do I have to go back in and change my Cruddy Buddy library, don't I? I do. Where is that? Yeah, we don't need to print the OS name anymore. We are going to keep it like this though, so we can call that file delimiter outside of creating a Cruddy Buddy object, as well as part of its own library. I mean, it's probably totally unnecessary to do that, but I'm just going to keep it like that because it's working. It's working, so we're going to do that. If it works, don't mess with it. That's what I've always said. Except for when I've said, hey, it works, let's mess with it and see if we can make it better. Which is also something I say a lot. In my own head. When I write code. Alright, so we get the name from the file dialog box. We split that name into a list using the split method, which all strings have. And since file dialog ask open file name returns a string, that should work. Puts that list in name. Within name, we get the file name by dropping the last one. We get the file directory. By doing the rest of them. I think. Run that just to get one more time to make sure we're doing this right. Open. Kittens. Directory. File name. Perfect. Alright, so we have our file name, we have our directory. We need to create a Cruddy Buddy object. We are going to make it as part of self. And we pass it, was it file directory first? Helps if I can spell. And the file name. If I am doing this right. Let me just double check that. Yep. That is in fact correct. Okay, So, we'll have our file name and directory. Now, since we have a CreadyBuddy object, you remember how we were able to read the records from our CreadyBuddy object? Because we want to direct that at our list box list thing up here. So, let's see here. We would also like to read the first record of our object, huh? Trying to remember how I properly do this, because there's a right way and a wrong way. If I do it the right way, it works. If I do it the wrong way, I'm an idiot. Text. Okay, we'll do text. Now, for that, we want to run and return the first record in our kittens file. If I remember it, we just passed the record number, right? Yes. And that'll spit out a list. We would like to join them with what's currently there, I think. So, let's see here. Okay. I think I have an idea of what I'm doing. I mean, maybe not, but we'll find out in a minute. In just a minute here. If I know what I'm doing. See if that works. It was never closed. Oh, that's right. So far, so good. Now, if I select this and hit open, CreadyBuddy is not defined because it is not just CreadyBuddy, it's CreadyBuddy. CreadyBuddy. Do you see what we have done? Do you see how we have changed our graphic user interface? by using the stuff in our things and stuff. You might be wondering what's up with this nonsense here. That's because there's a new line character after fluffiness that we forgot to handle here. So we should probably use a little more finesse with this, but the basic function is there. We have probably enough of these, though. Let's try... Try that. I mean, that might strip out the tabs as well, I don't know. Name, color, and fluffiness. Boom. Right there. We did it. It does look like it mashed those up right next to each other, though, so I do want the tab there. There we go. That'll be better. Okay. So we have the headers loading properly. Now we just need to populate our records list. And then ask what we want to do with it. I am really tired, though. So, I think we're going to solve the problem here of populating our list, and then I'm probably going to call it a day for today because I have been fighting an app this whole time. And... much as I love doing these little lessons for y'all, I've got a meeting later today that I probably shouldn't be falling asleep in. So, we'll finish up that part, and then we'll add the the user control menu, so they can add and remove records, update records, and whatnot as they see fit. Next time. But this is a good start towards making a graphic user interface for our Cruddy Buddy object, you have to admit. We're getting somewhere. We're taking that library we built, and we're making something out of it. So, we've got it so that the headers are populating. Now, our list box list, I want to take a look at my example here where I have the list box that I played with earlier. Alright, so, list box is controlled by our string variable object. We use the set, and we feed it in a list. Although it's not exactly a list, that is a tuple. But anyway, we want to read the file. Where am I here? There I am, I think. Why is this being so weird? Oh, probably because I have this open. Let's exit that. Close that. Okay. There we go. Okay. Ugh. Struggling to stay awake, guys. Struggling to stay awake. But here we go. Do I have a YouTube channel? Yes, I do have a YouTube channel. I think there's a link to it in my About on the Twitch channel or something. Otherwise, if you just search for Murph Strange, it should come up. I think. I don't know if I've got everything moved over to the YouTube channel yet, but a lot of my gameplay stuff is, and I think the first few segments of the Python tutorial are. I don't have anything else up there yet, though I do have some videos I put together a while back when I tried doing a hacker group that discussed like the Linux command line and stuff and things you can do there, that I've been considering re-uploading to that. I think that might actually be kind of helpful for some people. Okay, so next thing we need to do is we need to populate the records list. For that, we want to populate the kind of drawing a brain fart here, because why did I use that if I'm just going to insert it directly? I don't know. But we can insert stuff directly, and we can do that with a... we can do that with for loop. Let's see here. For this one, we want to create the... I'm looking at the wrong thing, aren't I? I am. Alright. Where was it? Cruddy Buddy. Cruddy Buddy. No. Where'd you go? There you are. Okay. So, we have the read file, which takes everything, and it should put it out as a list. Self.cb read file. Doesn't take any arguments. Now, just to make sure we're getting what I think we're getting, let's do that. Okay. Now the first thing we want to do is we probably want to get rid of the headers from our records list, because we've already dealt with the headers. We don't need to deal with the records, or we don't need to deal with them again in the records list. We could keep them and ignore them, and just remember that our first record is garbage. Why did that indent so far? And then we go, what was it? Self dot records. Insert. And then here we just need the if I remember right, it's the index and the value that's going there, right? Where did I see that? Where did I put that? Yeah. Okay, so just like, oops, just like here, kind of want to do it this way. Remove any new line at the end. Turn it into a list separated by commas. No idea if I did this right, but we're about to find out. It's right there, but it's right there. Oh. You expected parentheses, not colon. Okay, now, this is probably going to error out because our kittens file has nothing in it. Well, actually, nothing happened. And the reason why nothing happened, I wouldn't go so far as to say because we did it right, but it might be. It might mean we did it right. So let's run our original command line. Pull up our kittens file. Alright, let's add a record. We'll go with classic Tom. He is a gray cat. He is sort of fluffy. Yes, we can exit now. Now if we run the interface, and we open that same kittens file, Tom, he's gray, sorta. Okay, so we have everything, but this didn't exactly work the way that I had hoped. I may be trying to do too much in one line. I mean, it's kind of a step in the right direction. We are adding the record to the box. However, it does not seem to be formatting the way that I'm trying to get it to format here. So, let's try... Try this. Well, you know, we don't have to comment that out. That's still working. But let's see what our actual output is here. Okay. So we are getting the tabs. They're just not spacing properly in our box. Which is unfortunate. There may be an option to change that. Otherwise, we may have to go with adding a list of boxes, and then just kind of like, I don't know, tie them together so when you select the first one, like all the rest of the fields in that row are selected. I don't know. This one is going to take some thinking. But where we are now, our headers change properly when we load a file to match what's actually in the file. And our records do display in the list box they're just not displaying according to the formatting that that we've given them. So we're gonna need a little more research to figure that out, because I'm not sure just how much formatting we're allowed inside these list boxes, and that might be the problem. We might be better off just going with a label again. Because with the label, as you can see, we can do the text formatting thing where we tab everything out. We wouldn't be able to just click on the item that we want to change, though. That's the thing that I'm trying to make work. But that's not absolutely necessary. So, if we're willing to let that go, change our list box to a label, and populate the label. Well, no, because there too we may have some issues. Well, no, I think I can enable scroll bars on the labels. I'll have to look up how to do that, though, because I haven't done that in an age. If ever. But, I don't know. Might be a thing we can do. Anyway, we've made some pretty good progress. We've got our window app actually able to connect to the same file we create with the Cruddy Buddy command line application that we wrote. We're giving it a graphic user interface. We're just having a little trouble with the formatting. That's all. We'll sort that problem out next time, and we will also sort out the rest of the controls for the user so that they can delete the file if they choose to. They can delete records from the file at will. They can update records within the file. We may even, at some point here, get to, allowing them to rearrange the order of the records. After all, it's a graphic user interface. It'd be nice if it had a little more functionality than what our command line was able to do. I do thank y'all for joining me. Sorry I was so run down today and just exhausted, but it's already been a very long week for me, and oh boy. But join us here Thursday. We're going to be back to playing some Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. We've got a few challenges left there to complete before we call it good on that and start a new game. I don't know what the new game is. We'll be back to doing more Python code on Friday. Tune in for that. We'll try to finish up this app, or at least, the main part of it. Don't know if we'll get around to writing all the functions that it's going to have, but we'll try. And then join us Saturday at midnight for another public domain horror movie. Last weekend's public domain horror movie I had to take down because I got the copyright information wrong on it, so I did not show the right movie. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Follow to find out when I'm live. Discord's there on the screen. My website. Y'all have a wonderful day.